Welcome to Flourishing in Faith, the place where you can discover stories of hope, truth, and glory, as well as find life hacks to live your faith more fully. Hi, I'm Julie, a daughter of God, certified professional life coach, wife, and mother of four. After trying to do everything the wrong way, I've been overwhelmed by healing, joy, and freedom through Jesus and the gifts of grace He makes available to each and every one of us. My passion is to share what I've been given with others. I'm glad you're here. Let's begin. Today we have a glory story that was actually submitted from a listener, Shelby, and I'll be reading her submission on how she gave her yes to God. She writes, Julie, this story is about how God left open the door for my baby. In 2009, when my daughter was born, my mother-in-law bought me a bunch of garage sale clothing from a woman who had had a whoops baby at 40 years old. At the time, I thought that sounded like the worst thing that could possibly happen. God must have been laughing at the thought, knowing, quote, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for welfare, not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. After I had my son in 2013, I felt our family was truly complete. One girl, one boy, both healthy babies. What more could I want? After all, my dad always told me, don't let your children outnumber you. At the time, I agreed this was a good rule of thumb. Fast forward to 2015. My husband was going to see a doctor about a vasectomy, as well as a concerning situation going on. That day, he found out he had testicular cancer. After his surgery to remove the cancer, my husband decided against the vasectomy. Looking back, I realized the cancer diagnosis was God's way of making sure we didn't close the door to more kids. And truly, it was the easiest surgery and recovery from cancer we could have hoped for. Fast forward a few more years to 2018. I was having terrible periods. I would nearly pass out at work and I could not function normally. A woman's health nurse practitioner I knew had made some suggestions of options that I could try to reduce the severity of my periods. Now, at this point, I was starting to take my Catholic faith more seriously, and I really struggled with the options I had to choose from because most of them were considered a form of birth control. I spoke to a priest about my struggles and I asked him for advice. He said, because the primary reason was a medical necessity and not to prevent pregnancy, it would be acceptable to have an IUD. So in July 2018, I got an IUD implanted, which did drastically improve my period situation. This device was supposed to be good for 7 years. Now, I don't remember exactly when it happened, but somewhere between 2019 and 2020, the Lord revealed to me that it was His will for us to have another baby when I was 40 years old. I thought He was crazy because I had zero interest in another child, and neither did my husband. He felt the same. However, the Lord left the decision to me. God told me if I had the baby, I'd have the greatest love I've ever known. But if I decided not to have another baby, then I could still have a good life. The choice was in my hands. The thought of starting all over with a new baby scared me to death. It seemed like a step in the wrong direction. It seemed like a lot of work. To add to that, my husband was not on board. Over the next few years, I met more and more women who had babies at 40. I would see large Catholic families at church that would catch my eye. Slowly, my heart started to soften to this idea of another baby. It took about 2 years before I felt like I could give God my yes on this. And then another 2 years for my husband to give his yes. So 4 years later, with my husband's full consent, I went to the OBGYN and I got the IUD removed. I gave my official yes, my fiat, and we got pregnant the first time we tried. Our baby is due in January. Shelby goes on to say, the most important part of this story is the beauty I saw when my will aligned to the will God revealed to me years prior. I have not forgotten His promise of the greatest love I've ever known. At first, I thought this love would be for or with this new child. but I've come to realize it is God's love for me that I will know, for living in cooperation with His holy will rather than my own will. The truth I'm learning is that God has great plans, better than the plans I could make for myself. I have been learning the past 2 years about how God has provided and prepared a way for this baby, especially in our living arrangements. I really just need to sit back, enjoy the ride, and let God work out the details for my life, because the best made plans are always His. Wow, Shelby, what a beautiful story. I love how gentle God was. Thank you so much for sharing this. Your faith is beautiful. May God bless you, the little one, and your family during this pregnancy and ever after. Thank you for listening to Flourishing in Faith. You can learn more about this ministry, share prayer requests, send questions, or even share your own glory story by visiting lifewithchristisbeautiful.com. If you found this episode helpful and think others might too, please rate us and review us or share this with others. All right, lovelies. As Pope Francis says, please pray for me. I'll be praying for you. Thanks.